for that gay men did, honestly, at first.
Oh, really?
I thought it was, but I was the same way about the iPhone. I was like, nobody's gonna,
Oh, that's so funny.
I was the same thing about twins. When I saw twins for the first time, I was like, this isn't
I remember
gonna stick around.
I remember when email addresses, like I had my email address. This is back when it was AOL, and it was my name.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a friend of mine making fun of me, like, "You have your name and your email address?" I mean, this is going back, and I was like, "Yeah, so that way I can just tell people." And they're like, "Okay, like, what are you, your own business?" It was such. And, like, I remember Greg Giraldo making fun of me for having my website, jimgaffigan.com. He's like, "Why do you have a website?" And I was like, "Well, I think everyone is probably going to have a website." And he's like, "No."
And then he overdosed.
No, well, of course, eventually he got a website.
Right, that's what I meant.
But it was just like, it was one of those things. It was, and he was a great guy. But it was just, it was just seen as a little bit like unnecessary.
Right, like you're being a bit much here.
Yeah,
Tim.
like commercials they used to, like when they, at the end they'd be like, visit Nabisco.com.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm getting paid by Nabisco. No, I'm not. But
yeah, it's crazy to think, first of all, that anybody's ever going to go to Nabisco.com.
right, it's like, what? I'm bored. I'm going to go to Nabisco, see what those Keebler elves are doing.
Yeah, see some BTS of the elves, dude.
Right?
Yeah, they're all on spring break.
Right?
Yeah. It's a smooth sack summer. People want to brandish up their balls and get them nice. That's what they want. And the leaders in below the waist grooming are making sure we all have a. What was Greg Giraldo like? Did you ever get to spend time with him?
Oh yeah,
People
no,
love him.
I started with him.
Oh really?
I met him at Cold Waters. There was an open mic there that you had to pay, and I think you had to pay like $5, and you'd go up. And he and I both showed up. I had, and we were both wearing suits. We had a coat and tie on. He was a lawyer.
He was a real lawyer?
He went to Harvard Law.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He went to Columbia on a scholarship, and I think he went to Harvard Law on a scholarship.
Oh wow.
And he was working for the best law firm or one of the great ones in New York City. And so it was God, I can't remember, but it was just because this was probably 92, 93.
Yeah.
And it was, at those open, like stand-up is much more middle class now, but back then it was a lot of people that should just be in therapy. It was a lot of people that I used to do those open mics, but poetry open mics. There were poetry open mics, and you didn't have to pay for those, and those were just even more mentally ill people.
Oh yeah.
But I love those people. Like there was the Bowery Poetry Club. There was just these really surf reality, just these characters, just these New York characters that were, and just like you weren't sure if they were homeless or if they were just kind of, but there were some real charactery people that were.
Oh yeah, you'd have somebody with a fern built into the side of their head, or you'd have
somebody would just go up and they would just pour blood on themselves.
Yeah, you'd have somebody with a pH balance of like 11,000 go up there. You would have. They would have. And then poetry was like, it was almost like it was too soft, so it went the other way. It was slam poetry.
Yeah,
where you'd have somebody just like throw a javelin through a white guy up there for 2 minutes or something. It was just crazy.
And then occasionally somebody would like read, so people would read their own, because there was slam poetry, right?
Do you not hear my wings? And they would just fucking behead a white guy.
And then there would just be like, people would read excerpts from their novel.
Oh yeah.
And people would be like,
and they pass a gun around at the same time. That was the crazy part.
make them notice. Look out! Finish what I started. going forward. Every rule needs a break. Look out! Think back! Not quit until it's right. Come get it. If there are limits, I haven't found them yet. Step right up. Time step.
Shut down.
Oh my god.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
I do my own science.
Shut down.
Come get it. Look out! Things aren't gonna do themselves. Progress doesn't belong to one city.
Oh my god.
Time doesn't heal all wounds. Never had luck. Never will. make some noise.
Victory.
Oh my god. Finally. Oh my god. How long does that take? Forever? Finally. Qualified. What? I'm not fucking. What? Oh my goodness. Unreal.
Crazy part. That was the craziest thing, dude. It's like, I don't think we need this gun going around.
What? So like the Russian roulette. Would you ever do that?
Ooh. I think on an 8 chamber I would. I wouldn't go on 6 though.
Really?
Do they make an 8 chamber pistol? I'm sure they probably do.
Like, do you have a gun in a drawer in your residence right now?
Yes.
Is it in a safe or is it just kind of next to your nightstand?
It is accessible, I would say.
It's
without a
accessible.
safe.
So if your girlfriend gets mouthy, you can take it out.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I could set it out next to the silverware. Okay. I could certainly set it next to the butter dish on the dinner table.
She comes home and you're just waving it. Where were you? And she's like, I was just out with some friends. Uh-huh.
Dude, how crazy must the past have been?
I followed you on your Apple device. You weren't with your friends.
Yeah, you were at Dave and Buster's, huh?
Dave and Buster's.
Uh-huh.
You know I got tokens.
Yeah. Who's Dave and Buster? You're fucking quizzing her.
Who are you fucking, Dave or Buster?
Yeah. You're out there with these mother.
These two men.
Who's Dave and Buster?
You know, is their food better than mine?
Yeah, tell me the truth.
Do you think you'd ever murder someone
Ooh, this is,
in a fit of rage?
yeah.
You would,
Mhm.
right?
What about you?
Oh yeah, I think I probably could. I mean, not that I haven't already.
Yes.
No, but I would. I don't know.
What would you do with the body, though? That's the thing. Would you tell on yourself, or would you take a few minutes to decide if you want to tell on yourself?
I wouldn't tell on myself.
Yeah.
That's interesting, you know, because like people, you know, when someone murders someone, there's always kind of like people are like, and then they lied about it afterwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He killed his wife, and then he concocted this big. But of course, they. What are they supposed to do? And be like, I am a man of honor. You know what I mean? It's like Of course they're gonna sit there and go and try and get out of it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you know what? I'll take 50 years in jail. You know what I mean? It's, but it is like the
Yeah, I
there's
think,
there's killing someone and then there's murder, though, right?
right. I think there's a way to kill somebody probably humanely,
Yeah.
a little more humanely than murder. There has to be some middle ground in there.
Like, did you know of anyone that got murdered in your town?
I have a buddy who has killed somebody.
Yeah. And was he caught, or did you just kind of out him?
He was not caught.
He was
And-
not caught.
Nope.
And is it one of those things where you guys were having some beers and he just started crying, I killed Angela, or did he tell you, he's like, I killed Bob?
No, we were. Yeah, it was one time we were doing drugs.
Yeah.
He said it, and I
He
just
said it.
knew that he had done it.
Wow.
Because I've had people all the time are like, I killed somebody, and you're like, fuck you, you know,
Yeah.
you haven't, you know,
Wow.
and they're like, you're right, I haven't, dude.
And what was the reason for them killing them?
I want to say it was like domestic dispute,
Really?
and it was gay men.
Wow. Wow.
But I think there's a lot of domestic disputes, and I think the tough thing about killing somebody, right, is how do you say you kill somebody that, say if you ask 100 people,
Yeah.
99 of them are like, yeah, you can kill Ernie, right? You can kill Ernie. So you do it. But how do you hide that body? How do you,
Yeah.
and where do you do it? And then how, I would feel honestly like I owed something to their family. So I would have to go and live next door to the family and be helpful to them or something for the rest of my life, I feel like. Without, you know, and I'd be like, oh, damn, I sure miss Ernie, you know.
Yeah.
And say, you know, it'd be fucked up, but I would have to do
But
it.
they would eventually forgive you, and they'd be like, oh, you know.
No, but they didn't know you did
You'd
it.
make love to Ernie's wife. What if that happened? Is Ernie married?
I think he is. And I think, yeah, at that point, you get in, you assume the whole role of the family, and you just take over. And maybe you rebuild his life back to a level he could have never
Right.
built it to.
And
Wow.
you change your name to Ernie. Well, what about like getting rid of a body? Like, you ever notice that, like, you know, like I garden. I like gardening. I know that it's. I don't want to brag, but I garden.
Yeah.
But I like digging a hole. Like, you know, some soil's easy to move, but some's like, you know, if it's clay, if you're trying to get rid of a body in clay,
You're an idiot.
you're no, but like you're like digging and you're like, you know what, it's not gonna be 6 feet. Then you're just like
Yeah.
you're like pile of leaves. You're like, you can't go deep enough. It's
You're
just
like-
like if it's really rocky soil, you're like, these rocks, I keep running into rocks.
Yeah, I don't think this grave isn't going to be a sedan. It's going to be more of a two-seater. You know, we're going to go just like, this will be just a hatchback, this grave. Yeah. And then the grave's just 1.5 feet.
You're like, all right, I'm just gonna chop off the head. I'm gonna bury the head here.
You have to bury the guy with his head to the side.
And then
so it
you're like,
takes less space.
and then you go to the store and you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy all those chemicals where you kind of like Dexter melted bodies. And you buy the chemicals, and you're like, you throw the body in there and it doesn't work, and you're like, shit. And then you look and you're like, oh, this chemical is not right. So then you got to dump out the body. And then you take the body and you throw it in a dumpster, and you're like, and then you're about to fall asleep, and you're like, you know what, that dumpster, they're going to find that dumpster. Because you see a guy walking in the background who kind of like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm not dumping a body. Right? That could happen.
Oh, it would be so hard. Except some people get the hang of it, and I think once you unlock that code of how to get rid of a body, it's got to be.
Right?
I mean, yeah, it has to be like when you like Club 54 or whatever. I mean, you're just having a blast then.
Yeah, it's
You're just
weird.
getting rid of people.
So people get, that's how they get off, though, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, there's a lot of killers out there. And women like the shows. I mean, that's one of the problems you've seen with society is during COVID-19, all the Dateline episodes got watched up, right?
Yeah.
People watched every murder episode. These channels started repackaging the same murders. People like, no, I know this is, I've seen this murder. You're just trying to trick me,
Yeah.
you know?
It's really sad. Also, then they started encouraging people to murder. They're like, we need some content.
Oh, they have to.
And Netflix started paying people to murder.
Would you be surprised though?
No, if there were like, if there was like a list. All right, so I gotta date her for 2 weeks. Then I have to be angry. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to be on meth. So it's like all these variables to make a complex, interesting dateline. You'd have to do all that, but like it would be worth it because
Yeah.
you'd get paid great.
Well, I think I could totally see if we get into a circle where networks, which are some of these big businesses are paying, especially networks are paying. Yeah, I'll pay $100,000 for some guy to
Right.
go on a killing spree, low key, through some other channel, so no, it never
Right.
traces back to me. I get to make a documentary about it. That documentary is going to make me $500,000. So why wouldn't I just keep doing that?
Right. By the way, there is a movie called Man Bites Dog, which is great. I think I don't know what language it's in, but before I had kids and before I was married, I used to watch all these indie films, and it's amazing. And it's about this documentary crew that's following this serial killer, and then they start joining in. Like, it's just how it's kind of contagious.
Yeah.
And how it's like, so like they're like partying with the serial killer, and then eventually they get wasted, and then it's really dark, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I could see you. I think you get kind of accustomed to anything, you know. I remember I stayed with a friend one time. They were playing volleyball every day, and the first day I was like, I don't want to play any volleyball. I don't like it. And the
Yeah.
second day I got out there, and the third day I was the first person on the court.
And before you knew it, you were Gabrielle Reese.
Yeah.
Is she a volleyball player? I think
Yeah,
she was.
Gabby Reese.
Gabby Reese.
Yeah,
right?
she married Laird Hamilton, didn't she?
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we should find out. I thought she was married to.
Yeah.
No, she's married to somebody else. Is she married? Who is she
No,
married
I think
to?
that's Laird.
Laird.
I think her husband is Laird.
Oh, all right. Who's married to Richard Marx? I guess she's not.
Richard Mark.
Because Gabrielle Reese, she was on MTV too, right?
I don't know if she was. Richard Marks. I don't know who Richard Marks is.
He's married to somebody.
She was a volleyball player, right?
Richard Marx is married to who?
Who is his wife? Daisy Fuentes.
Daisy Fuentes. She
Oh,
was.
remember? She was hot, dude.
Richard Marx is not that old.
Nuh-uh. I didn't know who he was, but he
Daisy
looks like Chris Isaac.
He wrote all the. You don't even know who he is, do you?
Uh-uh.
See, you're too young.
The Marx Brothers I've heard of.
No, he wrote a bunch of songs, and then he wrote all these songs for like the Backstreet Boys or something like that.
God, that'd be nice. You have another skill, man. I mean, I saw your movie, probably since we've last talked. I saw your movie. I think I even sent you a message about it. The one where you're the driver.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dude,
American
it was
Dreamer.
really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was fun. I love acting. It's so fun.
You
It's,
crushed it, man.
Oh, thanks.
It was
well,
really
it's fun.
good.
I
How much
think-
was it? How much did it cost to make that?
They did that. I know they did it for maybe $250. And
You did a great job for that.
oh, thanks. And it was when we were shooting that. There's a car explosion, and we shot that in like I don't know, 12 days. And when the car explosion kind of happened, we had to shoot other things, and we kind of tried to get the car out, and I remember us driving to the other location, and the car was kind of still on fire. It was like a fire truck. I mean, it wasn't, believe me, it wasn't one of those things where we caused any damage to anything, but it was, I mean, it was this guy who was this great director, and Derek Board, and he lives in Virginia Beach, and he had a buddy who had a car dealership, and he's like, can I have two of the same cars, because we needed two cars. So anyway, but I remember there was a car that was on fire, and I was like, are we leaving that here? And they're like, it's fine, because we had to shoot, we had to get done with this shoot.
Dude, it's America's change. You can leave a burning car anywhere now. I feel like
yeah.
It's just,
Well, there's parts of, but I think there's parts of Virginia, not Virginia Beach. That's very nice, but like Norfolk, and Norfolk's nice. But there's parts that was like, whoa.
it's a little
It gets
peligroso.
dicey.
It's
Yeah.
a little dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, there's some big cities they've gotten even like Minneapolis is like deserted. I feel like
Yeah, it's sad.
When I go there, I'm
Oh
like
my
they
fucking
drew
God.
all kind of murals. Like there's more drawings of people in Minneapolis than there are people anymore.
I mean, I love Minneapolis too.
Hey, you
And
take your
it's-
special there. I think we were taking it
Yeah.
at the same time down the street.
Oh, yeah,
Or I
it
was
was- and we
performing.
couldn't- we
couldn't
couldn't-
see each other.
We couldn't see each other because of the
COVID.
COVID restrictions. Netflix didn't allow anyone in to this. I mean, this was also this, and I have a new one now.
Right. That's what.
Yeah,
You have a new one coming out. It's your 10th one.
I know.
that right?
Isn't that crazy?
That's
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah, I mean, but it's it's all self-assignment, right? And so
Like, what do you mean by that when you say that?
Well, it's like, when you did your last special, you're like, I'm going to do this special. And you kind of set your mind to it and you do it. But, like, I think the craziest thing is, like, when I did my first special, it was the expectation was that people would maybe do one or two or maybe, like Carlin did a bunch. But it was not what it is now, which is where, and it might change, where people every couple of years put out a special. I don't think, and that might change, but like, I mean, here we are on a podcast. I mean, this didn't exist in its present form 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like people consume, like, there's pressure for you to do episodes because people, they're kind of like, all right, I need another hit, right?
Yeah, it's really kind of scary, I think, sometimes. You're like, you become a dealer in a way,
Yeah.
I mean, you become an entertainer and you look forward to having the chats with people. You also start to realize that people in our business and in different businesses are so busy that sometimes this is the realest chat you're going to get with them.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that recently. Like, I went, where did I go? I went to do a podcast and I was like, man, and my friend he's just a busy guy. And I was like, man, I wish I'd have utilized that time a little bit more with him just to really be like, oh, this is our time to connect. It's just, that's how, if you spend a couple hours with somebody, it's a lot of time. So,
Yeah, it is. I'm jealous of, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to start my own podcast, but I am jealous of, because, comedians, you get some success. You never get to hang out with people. Do you know what I mean? The more successful you are, the more and if you have other aspects of your life, you're not going to get the quality one-on-one time that you would normally get. And just for comedians, this is kind of our oxygen, is talking to other comedians.
that's a good point. Yeah, I think it probably used to be different. You guys would hang out together more. Was there more of that? I think all of that happens too when you're coming up as well.
Yeah, and I think there was also there wasn't the touring and doing theaters, and which is great and I love, but it was, or, if you were doing comedy clubs, there was, 3 or 4 people and you'd be there for multiple nights and you knew some of the wait staff, and there was, you had more of, there was more of a communal experience, but it's all shifting constantly, and
That's
fine.
true too. It changes constantly, and it's scary to know if the next shift, if you will apply to it.
Right.
That feels very scary a lot of times. If the next curve, if you will have, if whatever you're doing will have an ability to kind of like flourish in that space.
But I think that, I mean, we talked a little bit about this beforehand, before we even started. I think authenticity is what people crave.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so
my fuck.
there are things that are shiny and trendy and fancy, but I think that if it's authenticity and it kind of can adjust to the times, it's kind of timeless, right?
Yeah.
I think You know.
Yeah, I think you want. Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like there's always going to be people that come from similar backgrounds to that we have.
yeah.
Not that I know anything about it. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like there's, but I don't know. I think that, comedians, that's kind of a litmus test among our peers is to retain that authentic. That's not to say that there isn't some fun and there isn't some pretending and there isn't,
Oh yeah.
exaggeration. But, it's also like I think when comedians buy their own hype, even when like when we were joking around, even like when comedians think they are good looking, that's kind of the kiss of death, right? When they're like, "Well, I am a philosopher."
Yeah.
It's like, well, you
Yeah.
have to be self-aware.
Yeah, it's scary. It's kind of scary because also people start telling you stuff, and you have to be careful not really to believe them. You have to just kind of know what your lane is. You have to stay out of your ego. The ego is really scary.
It is scary.
The ego is really, really scary, especially I think for guys who came from low self-worth, and then here's this false sense of self-worth, right? Or here's this inflated. It's like this. It's like clothing. It's like this clothing. It's like, oh, look at me, look at what you can do. But the inside of you, it doesn't really. It's not the reality. So yeah, man, that's been something scary for me. Is like trying not to hear certain things or just trying to keep my ego at bay.
I think it's ego, but I think it's also for me, it's getting caught up in other people's expectations, which is, it's not like a problem that you solve once. It's like the fact that your podcast is independent, which is not good or bad, right or wrong or anything like that, is like the expectation of what you're supposed to do with things is usually, and it's changing, but like I guess what I'm saying is like the fact that Rogan, everyone was like, oh, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to start your own podcast company, da da da. He kind of didn't get caught up in that, and
Right.
then ended up doing that Spotify deal. And it's and I think comedians have a tendency to kind of go their own path, but for me, when I sit there and I go, oh, I should do this, that's what everyone else is doing, that's when I really mess up. Or it's like, oh, there's that's a nice dollar sign.
Right.
My agent said that's good money. And that's when you get in trouble.
Yeah.
Is other people's expectations rather than anyway.
No, that's a great point. What do you think? What do you think is how do we kind of, or what things come into play there when we're trying to figure that out? Because I'll have things like that come across, and it's like, hey, man, this looks great. This is so many thousands of dollars. I'm like, dang, that looks great. But then it's like trying to trust whatever your instinct is, or know what your instinct is. That's really hard sometimes.
Right.
To know, like, is this an instinct or is this a fear? Is this like an instinct telling me yes, or is that my ego telling me yes? Like,
Right.
it starts to get weird to fucking figure those, like, who's at the front pointing at that moment, what part of you.
I think it's like, I think the ego is very impulsive, right? So it's like maybe taking time and, it sounds corny, the pros and the cons, that helps a lot. You know what I mean? And also, you've got this successful podcast, but like also you have friends, and you can, and it's just kind of like, like your unique sensibility is not something that someone could tell you how to come up with. You know what I mean? It's like that was on you, but I think input from
Mentors, people you.
but I think also tempered. You know what I mean? Like, it's like kind of take all the advice and cut it in half. Like, even when people like badmouth someone, I usually typically cut it in half, and so that's why, like, if I really hate someone, I'm like, I already cut it in half and I hate you. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right,
You're getting half the hate
half
right
the
now.
bad shit you did.
What when you and Geraldo were coming up, did he start off doing better than you? You guys were both doing well at the same time. Was there competition there? Like, what kind of? That's so crazy. He was so smart, huh?
He was super smart, and he was also, everyone liked him,
Yeah.
and he would help me get in to, because he grew up in Queens. He would help me get into clubs on Long Island. I was like this white bread guy, and like on Long Island, they're like, who's this dork?
Yeah.
And
This
so-
milk man.
Yeah. And so, but he would help me. But yeah, no, he had a lot of success, and I was jealous, and I told him that I was jealous. And, but, it's weird because, it's not just about the success. I think it's like how we all process the failures. Like, I almost feel like the advantage I had was that I had failed in a lot of things, whereas like people that were really successful in everything, they didn't have kind of the appetite for it, like,
Or the aptitude even for failure. You have to have some fucking.
yeah. And like some people that are allergic to cilantro, they're like, it tastes like soap. It's like, and so like failure, you have to have, it's like,
Be tempered by it a little.
yeah, you have to have the calluses to deal with some of it, if that makes sense.
No, I think it makes a ton of sense, man. That's fascinating. I wish I knew more about him. I always hear neat things about him.
His son's doing stand-up.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm
Wow.
supposed to have that, but
No, good for him.
yeah.
That's exciting. Man, I always wonder what it feels like. I wonder if somebody's like, imagine having a father that was extremely famous, right?
Yeah.
Like, say your father was. I'm trying to think of somebody who's really, really famous. Who can we think of? Pierce Brosnan, or
Yeah.
Carol O'Connor, or who else has a kid?
Well, like the Quaid.
Oh, that Quaid family.
That
They're
Quaid
interesting.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
interviewed
son-
Dennis. I want to interview the brother too, Randy.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, you should totally interview.
I want to
him.
interview Randy. Randy, if you're out
Sup,
there,
Emily,
I'd love to sit down and chat with you
David?
sometime, man.
Well, he
But their
probably-
son Jack,
Yeah,
Good,
his
how are
son
you?
Jack.
extremely talented and an
And-
amazing guy. I got to interview him years ago, and he was
Yeah,
Jack is
'cause
a
wait a
neat
minute, do you
guy.
live in Nashville?
Yeah.
And because I did this show, Full Circle,
Hell
with
yeah.
Dennis, and he lives in Nashville.
Well, Jesus. Oh yeah, Dennis lives there.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking
Yeah,
Dennis'
I play
brother,
other games
Randy.
cool.
Yeah, but
course.
like they might, he might go to visit his brother.
Yeah, Dennis
But-
lives over there. I saw his picture in a magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy.
Yeah, that's a serious beard. That's a beard. That's,
That's when your face is like, hey, I'm gonna live off the grid.
that's kind of like, you're not going to tell me what I should do with my beard at all.
Yeah, because I'm not even gonna be able to hear you. That's why. Because
Yeah, there's some really interesting videos of him and his wife, right?
I haven't seen. Is it like
Oh, yeah.
sex stuff?
No, it's just he's
Yeah, he's
He's
kind of
got-
out there.
he's got
He's pretty strong right wing views. Is that
Yeah.
right? Is that a safe way to say it? Ken?
I think so. And he and his wife, it was really interesting because they were on a park bench and they were getting ready to drink, I think, some champagne
You
or
saw
something
them?
like that. No, on this video.
Oh, on the video.
But they were, I think it was all about, it was like
have
about
been in
Biden
both.
and stuff like that. And how
Yeah, I
they
think
were
they get pretty
really-
political.
Yeah.
But I mean, Randy is an iconic character. You know,
Yeah.
His cousin Eddie character was iconic.
Yeah.
God,
yeah.
isn't that wild how that? I mean, that's just.
And then the son's a huge star now.
Yeah, the son is maybe a bigger star than even both of them were. I mean, they've all obviously have a lot of talent. They're famous. Dude, what about? I love dessert. Don't you like it?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I had yesterday, bro? Baklava, dude.
Really?
God, man, I didn't even know what was going on, and then I had it. And I was like, wow, they really did it good. had it?
Yeah, no, it's great. You know what I had yesterday? I was on the plane. And they, no, it was before. It was
Isabella
I had
00,
different
what up?
olive oil taste.
How are you?
It was amazing.
Really?
It was amazing.
Oh.
But baklava, where'd you have it?
I had it from some Mediterraneans, you know?
Hell yeah.
A couple of Mediterraneans brought it by, and God, it was just so good.
Right.
What's on it? Bring up a chunk of baklava, dude. You didn't even see it. Because, you know, at the end of the night, I either want to fucking do something horrible to myself or have something like
A sweet.
dessert. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, so that's like,
Wow, look at the layers on that. I mean,
Right.
that's almost like something a geologist would cut out of the earth.
well, that's just how many layers of, and you know, I think similar to croissants,
Nope,
it's
I
like
don't.
each
I
one
do
of those
actually, yeah, I do.
layers
I do have custom
gets,
designs, yeah, I do.
A bunch of butter on it. Greek food is
Oh,
really underrated.
God, I love, yeah, some of the pastries, they look so gentle. You don't even,
Yeah. Yeah, it's baklava is, it's